Shake on It by It's_Kingston on AO3. Episode 9, Chapter 9. Luz awoke to the obnoxious ringing of an alarm clock, the noise piercing her head and reverberating in her ears. Did Eda buy me the world's most annoying clock? Luz murmured, smacking the clock in a futile attempt to stop its noisy terror. Sitting up, she fiddled with it, eventually figuring out how to relieve the room of its awful noise. Guess that's one way to wake up. Luz grumbled, grabbing her school uniform and heading out the bathroom door to shower. Oh man, stay down, Luz angrily said, trying to smooth her hair down. Her voice was rising as she became increasingly frustrated with her uncooperative hair. With an annoyed sigh, Luz walked defeated away from the mirror, unable to control the random spikes that stuck out. Hey, kid, I made you breakfast. Eda greeted Luz at the bottom of the stairs, holding up a plate. What'd you make? Luz asked, unable to see what it was on top of it. Muffins, Eda exclaimed, lowering the tray to her. Luz thanked her and smiled, grabbing one of the tray and taking a bite. These are good, Luz said, giving Eda a thumbs up with her free hand. The other one is for the Blight kid you brought over, Eda responded, holding the plate out to Luz. That's oddly nice of you, Eda. Did you poison it? Luz eyed it suspiciously, before looking back towards her aunt. No, I just made extras. Why would I poison it? Eda asked, now unsure of the impression she'd given Luz. Just making sure. Luz choked back, gripping the muffin and wrapping it in a paper towel. Go on, kid. You don't want to be late. They might kick you out for that. Eda paused, before adding, too soon? Luz began walking towards the school, deciding to take the longer, scenic route after confirming she had much more time than Eda suggested. She arrived at the daunting building with 10 minutes to spare, wondering why Eda and sent her incredibly early. Probably so she could have some peace and quiet, Luz guessed. Racing through the barren halls, Luz quickly found her locker. She opened the creaking door and grabbed her books from inside. The locker beside her squeaked open, causing Luz to smile. Good morning, Luz greeted, excited to see her friend again. Good morning, Amity said back, cautiously removing the books from her locker. I brought you something, Luz said, shutting her locker and turning to Amity, who had done the same. She held out the wrapped muffin to her friend, eating a concerned glance. A paper towel? Thanks, Amity replied hesitantly. No, what? Look in the paper towel. Luz pushed it into Amity's hand, watching her unfold it. Oh, thanks. Did you make this? Amity asked, taking a bite of the slightly cold muffin. No, my aunt did. You like it? Luz asked, trying to wrap up the conversation as the hallways filtered. Yeah, it's good, Amity responded, speedily eating her muffin before class began. See you on Saturday still? Luz asked, a smile creeping onto her face, thinking about what they could do together. Of course, Amity responded, her voice lowering as she waved and walked away. Luz couldn't help but wonder why she'd only seen to warm up. Fun side of green-haired friend? No one else seemed to know about Amity, who didn't spend all her time studying, who was not so perfect girl who made bets and teased her. No, they all thought of her as a perfect person, the school's crown jewel, their star student. It must be tiring to keep up the facade constantly, Luz thought, comparing the Amity she'd met with the one her friend warned her about. Luz? A tug on her shoulder made her look towards the sound of the voice, seeing Willow and Gus standing there. We need to talk, Willow stressed, worried about her friend associating with the school's bully. About what? Gus asked, unaware of the situation. Fill us in, Willow said sternly, leaning against the locker beside Luz. Whoa, calm down. I just hung out with a friend. We just studied and grabbed lunch. Luz replied, leaving out the fact that friend in question was Amity, or that they spent 2 whole days together. That friend of yours was Amity Blight, Willow explained, raising her hands in emphasis. Wait, you got lunch with Amity? The same Amity that bullied us? The one that constantly belittling everyone? Gus asked, his voice a mix of concern and betrayal. Yeah, but we just studied, and she's not that bad, just academically orientated. Lou said sheepishly, and careful, afraid to lose her friends. She didn't want to let them talk trash behind Amity's back, but if she sided with Amity, she'd probably lose her friends. She couldn't reveal too much. Amity had warned her about how fast rumors spread. If Basha somehow caught wind of them hanging out, Amity's social status would plummet, and it would be Luce's fault. Sure. Willow replied spectacly, her tone cold and expression stern. Not that bad. She bullied us since we got here. Our school days have been a nightmare and no one takes us seriously. Gus added. His face was contorted into a mixture of anger and sorrow. I thought you were our friend, Luz, but it seems like you're gonna side with people who cared nothing about us but pain. That makes you no better than them. Willow clenched her hands tightly into fists, her gaze trained on the ground. She didn't give Luz time to respond before she turned, walking away with Gus in tow. Luz felt her heart sink. She laid back against the locker, sitting down and pulling her knees to his chest. Tears threatened to spill out of her gaze, and her breath was stuck in her dry throat. She wasn't sure what to do. She was so desperate she wanted to redo it, to reverse time and fix it. But she couldn't. She tried to blink away the tears that cascaded down her cheeks, but to no avail. Wiping the growing amount of moisture off her face, she deeply inhaled. Luz wanted to chase after the pair that had left her, but she found herself unable to muster the courage to stand up and face them. She didn't think she could talk to them without breaking down, without causing under the pressure. They need some alone time. And so do I. Luz murmured, her voice cracked. She wiped her tears and closed her eyes, trying to focus on something happy, like her mom had taught her. But focusing on happy moments only seemed to draw more attention to the scale of sorrow ones, bringing Luz back to the verge of tears. She instead shifted her focus to counting, decided to count by 13s. She raised herself up with the locker help, slowly walking towards history class. 13, 26, 39, 52, 65. Focused on her counting as she approached the door. Grabbing the knob, she sneakily twisted it. Luz, you're a bit late, but... Mr. Jackson stopped after seeing her red eyes and unfocused gaze. Can I speak to you outside? He asked, walking to the door. Luz only nodded in response, stepping backwards to let him walk through. Are you okay? He asked. His tone was sincere and caring, reminding Luz of her own father. Yeah. Luz answered, her voice breaking, as she sniffled. What happened? Do I need to speak to a student? He questioned, his voice soft but stern. No. Luz murmured, swallowing hard before continuing. Just some friend problems. It's fine. She tried to assure him, but her voice was wavering, and unfallen tears still outlined her eyes. Mr. Jackson sighed, tilting his head at the glunted of reason. After a moment passed, he spoke. Luz, you're an incredibly quick learner. I'm sure it wouldn't be an issue for you to miss the first 10 minutes of my class to get yourself together, he said, pulling out a yellow notepad and writing something down. He held the paper out to Luz, who accepted it. Seeing it was a hall pass, she thanked him and stumbled to the bathroom. Okay. You're okay. Talk to them later. It's a misunderstanding. Luz talked to herself in the mirror, taking deep breaths to steady her breathing. She washed her face and looked once more in the mirror. Her eyes were less red, but still noticeably puffy. That's good enough for now, she murmured, walking out the door. Hallplas clutched tightly in her hand. Excuse me, do you have a Oh, Luz. Oh, what are you doing? Luz asked, seeing her friend wearing a small star badge, patrolling the halls. I'm a hall monitor during my free period. I help make sure no one's skipping class. Amity explained, adjusting her bag. Of course you are. Luz giggled, but her laughter was cut off by Amity's sudden questioning. Hey, are you okay? Have you been crying? Amity seemed concerned and a bit panicked, reminding Luz of when they talked about the exam score board. I'm fine, Luz assured, giving a half-hearted smile as she tried not to worry her friend. Here's my pass. All good, right? See you on Saturday, Luz said, holding up her pass and rushing through the conversation. She quickly spun around and rushed back to class, firmly gripping the doorknob and twisting it with a newly found goal. I'm going to talk to Gus and Willow and clear up this misunderstanding. Luz steered her resolve before pushing the door open, entering the room with newfound confidence. She took her seat beside Gus, waved at him, hoping for a good response. He frowned, but waved back, quickly looking back towards the front of the room, writing down notes as the teacher spoke. At least he's not ignoring me, Luz thought, trying to be positive about the situation. The class seemed to finish in minutes as Luz sat hunched over her notebook, writing down what Mr. Jackson said through his lesson. Picking up her books, Luz walked out of the classroom. She couldn't stop thinking about the betrayal her friends must have felt, and how she was going to make things right. Entering the classroom, Luz took her seat beside Amity, pulling out her books. She went on autopilot, writing down what the teacher said as they flipped the backboard. Lost in thought, Luz was unable to hear the ringing of the bell. Her attention was grabbed when she received a tap on her shoulder. Looking beside her, Amity stood there, concern evident on her face. You've been acting weird since I left earlier. Tell me what happened. Amity said sternly. I don't have time right now. I've gotta go then. Luz said back, flashing Amity a weak smile. After school, then, Amity demanded, sounding far more concerned than Luz expected her to. How about Saturday? Luz said, grabbing her notebook and walking to the door. She didn't wait for an answer before heading out the door and quickly stopping by her locker before she went to the cafeteria. Okay, deep breath. They don't hate you, they're just upset with you, Luz reminded herself, entering the lunchroom. She walked to the food trays, picking one up before scanning the room, seeing Willow and Gus sitting at table 7. She nervously walked over. Can I sit here? I want to talk to you both, Luz said, nodding towards the table. Sure, Gus replied. He seemed less upset than Willow did, but certainly not happy with Luz. I'm sorry I didn't tell you in advance, but we were just supposed to study, Luz said. She wasn't lying. They were only supposed to study, nothing more. That doesn't change anything, Willow said back. Her voice was a mix of concern and betrayal, like she wanted to forgive her friend, but couldn't. Why did you even want to study with her? Gus asked, cautiously looking at Luz. Look, I didn't want to at first. Luz began explaining, telling the pair about the bet and how she lost, how Luz was supposed to get kicked out, but wasn't because she impressed Amity. Luz carefully worded her sentences, making sure to leave out she and Amity became friends, only telling Willow and Gus about the bet and the studying with Amity. Why would you risk your education? That's stupid, Willow said, her voice raised above its normal level. I know, but it's all done now, and I'm still here, Luz said, trying to make light of the situation. So, you could have gotten kicked out. We'd never see you again, Gus, who had silently listened the whole time, explained, He rarely seemed to sound angry, now being one of those times. I know, and I'm sorry. It was a stupid thing to bet on. I did it in the heat of the moment, and I know just how dumb and stressful it was, okay? Luce confessed. She focused on the ground, trying to hard, blinking back the tears that threatened to spill out. I'm sorry, Luce said, looking back at her friends. She didn't know what to expect from Willow and Gus. Luce had said everything she could. It was their choice whether they wanted her there. Willow and Gus both had good points. Luce had kept this to herself and became friends with the school's bully. Is that why you were so stressed about last week? The bet? Willow asked. Her expression was softer, but she was still visibly upset. You noticed? Luce asked, caught off guard by Willow's attention to detail. Willow paused for a moment, thinking about her choice of words. She chose blunt. You were literally shaking, Luce. You were visibly trembling when we went to see our scores. Willow said back. She looked at Gus, hoping she wasn't the only one to notice. He shrugged. I thought Luce looked weird and shaky, but most people are nervous for exams. Gus said back. Luce giggled at Willow's oversized gestures as she questioned Gus's lack of attention. He defended himself by explaining his focus on his own scores, dismissing Willow's counter-arguments. Once the pair calmed down, Luce nervously asked a question she had since that morning. Are we still friends? You don't hate me, right? Willow and Gus looked over at her, a mix of unreadable emotion displayed on her faces. Willow broke the uncomfortable silence. You were still standing up for us, and while that doesn't make it right, you had good intentions. Of course, we're still friends. She paused, looking at Gus for help. But you need to tell us when you get into dangerous stuff like that, Gus said, finishing Willow's sentence. Willow looked down for a moment before asking, How long are you going to study with Amity? For... Luce stopped. She realized she never bothered to ask Amity how long they were going to study together. I'm not sure. Maybe the rest of the year? She said, giving a weak shrug. The rest of the year? Well, that's only one more semester, Gus said, thinking about the situation. Yeah, I guess so. Willow agreed. The bell rang, ending the trio's conversation. They all said goodbye and waved, splitting up as they went their separate classes. The day ended, as it had begun, peacefully. Luce walked to her locker, humming as she piled her books into it. She closed the door and spun around, surprised by the person standing there now. Oh, Amity, you startled me, Luce said, stepping to the side to put some distance between them. Sorry. I just wanted to check up on you, but you seem to be doing better. Are you going to tell me what happened? Amity asked. She opened her locker and began putting books in as she spoke. Just some friend problems. It's solved, though, Luce said, assuring her friend with a thumbs up. A moment of silence passed between the two before Amity spoke up. It's because you're with me, isn't it? She asked, not taking her eyes off of the locker. What? No. Luce was interrupted by Amity, responding her sentence. Willow and Gus? Right. Neither of them liked me, and for good reason. Amity said. She slammed her locker shut, aligned with the situation. That's because of Basha, though, Luce said. They hadn't talked about it, but Luce was completely sure Amity wasn't the type of person to enjoy bullying people. I never stopped her, though, Amity coldly said back before walking away. Luce was laying on her back at Eda's house when her phone chimed. She rolled over and grabbed it off her nightstand. Luce hadn't been in a good mood since she talked to Amity earlier. She felt bad for putting her friends in that situation. She turned it on, her face lit up by her lock screen, a picture of her and Amity that had taken at the flower garden. Luce was brightly smiling while Amity looked out of place, awkwardly copying Luce's gesture in the cherry sea of flowers. Luce smiled at the memory, but shook it off when she saw the notification displayed. Opening Penstagram, she scrolled over her messages, opening the newest one from Amity. Thinking about it correctly, I've decided to pardon your exclusion without you attending further studying sessions. You and your friend should be happy now, correct? Luz was at a loss for words. She wasn't sure if Amity was trying to be nice or push Luz away. Either way, Luz didn't want to lose anyone. Not Amity or Willow or Gus, even if they didn't get along. She valued her friendship with all of them. Yeah, but I talked to them, and they don't mind. I'll see you on Saturday. She assured Amity she was trying to be nice, so she thanked her and turned off her phone. Luz heard the front door open, so she slipped her phone into her pocket and headed downstairs. Hey, Eda. Luz greeted her aunt as she walked to the door, getting home from work. Hey, kid. How was school? Eda asked. She reached down and pet King, who was running away from Hooty as he chased him around the living room. It was nice. Oh, and Amity liked that muffin you made. She said it was good. Luz replied as she watched Hooty try to use his talons to pick up King by the collar. That's good. Glad she liked it. Whose turn is it to make dinner tonight? Eda asked. She saw Hooty successfully catching King, hoisting him into the air by his collar. He hooted maniacally before dropping King, leaving him to fall free to the ground. You made dinner since I got home late, so I'll make dinner tonight, Luz said. She walked away from King, who fell to the floor, being saved at the last second by Eda, who caught him and put him on the couch. King seemed to completely forget about the incident, instead just laying down for a nap. Man, these guys are weird, Eda said, gesturing towards Hooty and King as she followed Luz into the kitchen. Tell me about it, Luz said back, pulling out everything she needed for dinner. This is not gonna go well, is it? Okay. Fuck. I'm sorry. This isn't gonna go well. Willow and Gus are gonna find out about Amity, and oh my god, it's gonna be even worse. What if by that time that they find out, Amity and Luz are already in a relationship? Fuck! This shit makes it complicated. I'm actually interested. Ooh, the drama. Ooh. Like, I'm actually interested. Kingston. I'm interested. Also, I don't have much else to say. What was it that I was gonna say? Fuck. Oh, yes. Sorry that I did not upload a video of yours yesterday. I was supposed to, but for some reason I completely forgot. I was scrambling and I didn't have enough time to do it. And then, like, it's any video to begin with, and I was scrambling the day we got back, which was Saturday, and then once we did get back, which was, like, at 9 in the night, I started recording. I recorded 2 videos, and then I fell fucking asleep, saying that I would record your video in the morning, so that it would upload later in the afternoon, and then I never recorded it in the morning, and by the time I find out, well, it was too late. Anyways, but apologies for that. I had a wonderful time, being over there, in vacation. It was just like a 3-day vacation. We left on Friday and we came back on Sunday, my bad. Sunday, we came back on Sunday. And it was nice. We left Friday in the afternoon, but all of the morning I was helping out finishing, a work commission for my mom, like helping her finish her commission. And then we were then packing everything up and making sure everything was packed for the trip, because this was like the first time we were going to take a trip without my stepdad. And it's a long trip as well. We were packing everything, and then we had to go pick up the kids. We then had to start going to the road and going through, and we went to a different state, and we drove. It was like a 6-7 hour drive. But once we got there, it was really fun. I really enjoyed myself. I tried a lot of new foods, which it's literally the only time I try new foods and stuff like that when we go on trips and stuff, because especially when I go on trips to visit my uncle and my aunt, or my uncle and his girlfriend, or I'll just say my aunt. Dude, they've been dating for like 8 years now. But it's like literally the only time I get to like try out new foods and shit. So when I do get to try out new foods, it's really cool. But yeah, I get to try out new foods whenever we go out to places like that. Like long trips and stuff, and we go to new restaurants, new little shops and stuff like that. There's this little cute breakfast shop that they have where they have crepes, and I always like getting. I think I always got the banana crepe, the banana something something. I ended up trying out the Californian roll, and the Californian crepe, and oh my god, it was so good. It was a savory, it wasn't a sweet, so it was eggs, bacon, cheese, spinach, and tomato, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I was really fun with that. I then ended up having this sandwich, which was a really, really, really expensive sandwich. It was like $20 sandwich, like Jesus fucking Christ. It was organic bread, really healthy organic bread, lettuce, a really expensive lettuce. Like, it was the name of the lettuce was like so fucking like long. Lettuce, tomato, bacon. It was really good. It was really good. It was really fucking good. I really liked it. And then we ended up going to this really, really fancy like restaurant, like Mexican restaurant with Mexican foods, but it was like super fucking fancy, right? Like we got there and I'm like, okay, this is a super fancy place. It's probably like some expensive, white bougie shit. No, you could have gotten tacos, except they were plated really fucking fancy. Like everything was fancy. I ended up getting some shrimp soup with a side of black beans, rice, and I thought it was a side of corn. It's this meshed up, this is where the fancy shit comes. It's this meshed up corn. It's like cornbread, but meshed up, so it's grainy and this really cool texture. And then you eat it like that. It was super fucking cool. It was super fun. The whole trip itself was super fun. It was really nice. It was a really nice trip. We ended up going to this museum where it had a bunch of stuff that you could do. There was this one domino room that I tried the dominoes on, but I fucking failed miserably. I spent like an hour setting up the dominoes just for it to fucking fail. Multiple times, actually. That was enlightening. Humiliating. Yeah. And then there was multiple shops. I ended up getting a new Oracle deck that I really, really enjoyed. And the only reason we found that little shop with the Oracle deck is because my cousin really needed to go to the bathroom, and that was the only area where the bathroom was, up where that shop was. And because of that, I went up to the shop and I found those. And it was super cool. I really enjoyed it. We also went to this park. My uncles did stupid shit at the park. We ended up having a lot of fun. And I think the last day, we just ended up eating at my uncle's house with my aunt. My uncle's and aunt's house. We ate some stuff there. And then we ended up going to a swap meet. And then after that, we came home. And it was really nice. We ended up stopping at the snow place, but like I did not like, because we have to pass the mountains to go back home. But I did not like the snow. I'm not a cold person. Mind you, we went to a very cold place, which I told my boyfriend, like how cold it was. And they're like, oh yeah, that's shorts weather and short sleeve weather. I'm like, what? You lunatic. And I think I ended up telling my mom, right? Because my mom knows about my significant other, except my family didn't. So I told my mom, like, dude, you will not guess, or I didn't say dude. I need to stop with the dude. I keep calling my mom dude, too. It's a thing. She hasn't noticed yet when I say dude. But, like, I hope she never notices. But I was like, Mom, you know what Ray just told me about this goddamn weather? Not goddamn either. I didn't say that. But, like, you know what Ray just told me about this weather? They just told me that they would wear short sleeves. And then my grandparents were like, well, where does Ray live? I'm like, they live in Wisconsin. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, makes sense. But, yeah. Anyways, I had a lot of fun. Sorry, Kingston, I ended up ranting about my trip and not your fanfiction. I'm gonna rant about your fanfiction now. I'm really excited for this. I think the dilemma of, your friends not liking your significant other could be really, really cool. I've had that happen to me in real life, and that is shitty. I did not like it. But in my defense, it was just my best friend didn't like my significant other, and it was less about my significant other and more about my best friend being not a good person. I mean, it also helps that significant other and I ended up breaking up, and then we were just friends, and then we had a friend breakup as well, which was also messy. So I don't know, maybe the best friend had a point. Maybe she was onto something, and maybe I just didn't listen because of who she was. Maybe, just maybe she got that one right. But anyways, point taken is, it's not fun when your friend does not like your significant other, or your significant other does not like your friends. And in this case, I think it's just the friends part, because the fact that Amity was like, hey, I release you from my grip. You may be with your friends, shows that she cares a lot about Luz. And I think that's so endearing, right? I think that is endearing, right? I think Luz setting up them as the Luz's wallpaper, lock screen, Luz, as I've said, there's many things that you could do that then render you to the point where it's like, okay, you did this, now you two are gonna fall in love, or at least you are, right? One is falling asleep in VC. Never do it. It's a trap. You'll end up falling in love with the person. Or the person becomes your child. Yeah, because that's what happened to me. I fell asleep in VC with two people. One of them is now my kid, and the other is my significant other. But also, sets aside, if you fall asleep with someone in VC, oh God, that's a slippery slope. But if you fall asleep with someone, like, in call, like, private, like, just you two, you're falling in love. And, never put someone as your lock screen without thinking that you're not gonna fucking fall in love with them. It's not gonna happen. You're setting yourself up for failure. Luz, both of you. And then you smiled while you saw the picture and remembered the memory of it? Luz, you're fallen. You're deep. You're deep under. You've fallen. You're down the rabbit hole. Yeah, you didn't even try not to fall. You willingly stepped into that damn hole. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.